Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I have to say that's a really hard panel to follow, but I'm just going to make one link, which is that the military has always come up with technologies that are later used, not all of the technologies, but that are later used for environmental purposes. So some of the best advances in renewable energy, desalination, and high-tech materials have actually come from the military, and we've gone on to benefit from them environmentally. That's the best link I can make. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the link between technology and natural resources. And I think it's really great. Thank you, Samir, for inviting an environmentalist to a technology conference. I don't think we're in technology conferences that often, but technology is a huge topic for us. So thanks for the chance to share how we see your world. I do want to say that when Samir invited me to speak, he said, "Hey, Janet, you should start your presentation talking about Tinder." And I think he was joking, but I'm going to do it. Okay, so one of the things that causes overuse of natural resources is overpopulation. And let's have a little thought experiment. If we believe that a match in Tinder leads to new births that wouldn't otherwise happen, what does that mean for natural resources? So I went into our database, and I'm using now the typical Australian lifestyle. So over the lifespan of this cute little kid, approximately he or she will use about 2,800 tons of materials, and will have a carbon footprint of about another 2,000 tons. They'll use 20,000 gigajoules of energy and about 250,000 kiloliters of water. So Samir, you were right, yeah? Okay, but Tinder also gave me a chance to talk about the hardware on which all of these platforms that we've been discussing, I'm not sure if Tinder's come up yet, but certainly Facebook, Twitter, depends on us having hardware. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. What about the natural resource use needed to make these? What are the things that we'd love you to take into account and think about in your use of technology and the decisions you'll make about it? So first thing you need to know is that all the hardware and the data centers behind it and the distribution networks are built on a linear economy model. So here we have a lump of iron ore, and we use that to make our gadgets, and then they end up as e-waste. And then when we're done with them, we get a new lump of iron ore, make a new gadget, and produce more e-waste. And I think that there are some security risks with supply that I think everyone should be aware of. First, I should say that we use about 80 billion tons of materials every year at the moment, and that's projected to pretty much double by 2050. It's not going to happen. We can't really do that. So let's see if we can look at some of the barriers that are going to come up along the way. The first kind of barrier is geological scarcity. So ore grades are declining. That means when you go out and you open a mine, you're going to need to dig out double as much stuff to get the same material that you really want. That's a problem because we're going to use twice as much energy, we're going to cause twice as much mining waste, and it's probably going to be a lot more expensive. Another geological issue that we're seeing is that mines are getting deeper. These bubbles are mines, and the further down they go, the deeper they are. That's also a lot more complicated to access the materials that go into these phones. I should say there are 60 different elements in your smartphones. You need every single one of them for it to work. And they're getting a little hard to get. There's also geographic scarcity. So deposits will be where they are in the world. They don't care what's happening on the surface. And one of the signs that we're seeing is that they're just encroaching on society and causing a lot more social conflict. So here we can see the cases of mining community conflict increasing, and that's very important for companies like Apple who are now taking a huge interest in their supply chains. Sometimes those deposits are in really awkward places, and some of the trends that are really, I think, quite alarming are asteroid mining, deep sea mining, and mining under cute Swedish towns. These are all real. So first of all, just last week, Japan landed a rover on an asteroid. It's going to start extracting minerals. Deep sea mining is happening, especially in countries that may not actually have the right governance structures ready for them. So Papua New Guinea is going to host the first deep sea mine for copper, 4 kilometers under the water. No one is going to be able to know what's going on down there except for some wildlife. And this one really, I found this really interesting. A Swedish town is being relocated because there's an iron ore deposit under it. Now, Sweden is one of the most developed countries in the world. It has sophisticated companies like H&M. So surely it does not need, this is not some developing country that needs to make huge sacrifices for the extractive industry. And what are they actually digging out? It's iron ore. Iron ore is like super available. So even a Swedish town is being relocated for iron ore. I find that really interesting. The other kind of scarcity that I think we should be alarmed about and ready for is geopolitical scarcity. So you might remember a few years ago, China decided that it would not be exporting as much of the rare earth elements, right? And the fact is that, again, 60 different elements in here, some countries have a monopoly on them. South Africa has about 99% of all the platinum deposits. China has the rare earth elements. These are critical little elements that you need for high tech. And this case was so sensitive that Angela Merkel was sent to China to renegotiate access to these rare earth elements for the German tech industry. So it's no surprise that this linear economy, where we do depend on access to raw materials, is starting to be on the way out. And what we're starting to see is a circular economy trend, where we're going to be using the e-waste as the mine of the future for our new e-products. One of the leaders in this field is Apple. They're committed to mining less from the earth and mining more of our old devices, and they don't want to use any raw materials in the future. I don't know what that says about the devices of the future. Maybe they're going to be really small, but they're really interested in getting your old mobile phones and e-waste out of your drawers and back into the system. But I wanted to use my last couple of minutes to talk about what we're working on at the moment in UN Environment Programme, which is looking at how this technology revolution can be used to actually support more efficient use of resources. There's a few different ways. I'm going to use examples from our startup competition. So we run a startup competition for low carbon and low waste startups in Asia. The first type of technology that I think is really, really, really important for the environment is the Internet of Things. So we're going to need to, we'd love to see more sensors out there, more smart meters, to bring that invisible data out from the environment and out from our societies and into a digital form that can be channeled into decision-making systems. So here we have Dipendra. He's an architect in Bhutan. He wants all homes and buildings to have smart meters to support behavior change, electricity consumption. And of course, he can provide you services in retrofitting your building to be more energy efficient. But I would say Internet of Things can also be used for really, it's going to be really important in farming to see how much fertilizer we need, how much water we need, and make our farms much more efficient. And make it much easier to go for natural farming, where you need to really calibrate quite carefully. The next type of technology is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So environmental decision making is really, really complicated. There are so many variables, and it's very difficult to make decisions quickly. So once all that data is up into the system, we need artificial intelligence, machine learning to process complex data for optimal environmental decisions. So that certainly that is used already in energy systems. Artificial intelligence is really useful in integrating renewable energy into the grid, which helps stabilize it, because decentralized energy sources can be quite destabilizing for grids. AI can help optimize in that. And this is one of our startups from Pakistan. This is Hassam. And his startup optimizes transport systems in Pakistan. They help peer-to-peer sharing, but it also optimizes routes. And he kind of converts all those cars into a public transport system. And the last slide, now that time is almost up, is on blockchain. Blockchain has huge potential for solving environmental problems that were not solvable before. The first one is supply chain transparency. If I want to vote with my dollars when I buy something, I really want to be able to scan that product and have some credible data about what happened along the supply chain before I purchase. Secondly is to facilitate that circular economy model. And so there are already startups that are tokenizing recycling and gamifying a return into the economy so that you can actually benefit from when you bring your e-waste or your plastic bottle back into the system. And blockchain can manage the tokens for that. And the last one is my example, another startup that we support. Blockchain can support peer-to-peer energy transactions, and that's really amenable to small-scale renewable energy. So Lathika here, she has a startup where she sees everyone in the future will have solar panels on their roofs, on their cars, and everyone's going to be plugging into a mini-grid where they use locally produced energy. And blockchain can be used to handle the transactions between small-scale energy producers, small-scale energy consumers, and that's going to be a lot more efficient than our centralized grid. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Samir, for inviting me along. Thank you.